Daredevil Born Again is picking up the pace after Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock donned his superhero suit in episode 6 of the Daredevil series. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe has just seen a major development come from Daredevil's involvement. Last week, the series had a double drop, with two very different episodes. While the first one was a detour from the main story, presenting an entertaining bank heist, the second episode was crucial to Matt's development, as the hero donned his Daredevil suit for the first time since Foggy Nelson died in the series premiere. This week's episode of Daredevil Born Again brings back who has been slowly built up over the course of season. It reveals that fans had seen the villain unmasked first, then gotten to know him as Muse. Adding to episode 7's many exciting moments, the Wilson Fisk side of the series saw major development. It seems like the Kingpin might have been betrayed by the one he loves the most. In other news, Fisk's anti-vigilante task force took home a major win, even if it did not deserve it, and that makes things more complicated. Episode 7 Recap. Fisk learns Daredevil is back because he rescued Angela, and she lost blood and pointed Muse's hideout to the police. Matt and Heather exchange "I love yous." Cherry confronts Matt about returning as Daredevil. He says that when he was on the force in moments of need, he called Daredevil. Fisk is angry that Daredevil is back because he dismantled his entire 10-year operation. Vanessa meets with Luca, who is unhappy about Fisk's mayoral role. He says things were better when Vanessa was in charge, and maybe it's time for a change. Vanessa asks if he wants her permission or help. Bastion Cooper, Muse, goes to a session with Heather. Fisk learns through Bastion's file that he was forced to compete in Taekwondo, and that his coach showed up dead not long after. Bastion tells Heather she is the key that unlocked his creativity to soar as an artist, and as his nose bleeds, he takes the blood and draws on a notebook. Heather asks about it, and Bastion says she already knows what that means and there are no more secrets between them. Bastion knocks Heather out after she tries to escape. Kirsten confronts Cherry about Matt's secrets. Daredevil appears in Muse's lair to investigate, and realizes one of the drawings is of Heather. Fisk learns that one of the drawings was of Heather, as Powell reveals facial recognition found it. Heather says anybody who needs a mask is a coward to Muse as he cuts her arm. But as Muse starts to strangle her, Daredevil breaks through a window. Daredevil brutally fights Muse, and Heather shoots him multiple times before falling from the bleeding from her arm. Daredevil leaves after stabilizing Heather, while Muse is dead on the floor. Daniel threatens BB to comply and say that the anti-vigilante task force stopped Muse, not Daredevil. Fisk and the task force pose for photos and take credit for Muse's death. Vanessa sends Luca an address and says Fisk is alone. Luca is immediately shot dead by Buck when he arrives. Fisk tells Buck to call Vanessa to see if she wants him to bring home some food from the restaurant. Did Vanessa betray Wilson Fisk? I yell at Zura's return as Vanessa allowed the MCU series to do more with the character than Netflix's Daredevil ever did. In Daredevil Born Again, she is a much more active player, and Vanessa has clearly been unhappy since Wilson Fisk returned and decided he would be mayor, which meant she had to give up on serving as the head of his criminal empire. Episode 7 finally builds that up to a boiling point, and there are two possible answers to the question of whether Vanessa betrayed her husband, like the series seemed to show. Like Vanessa, Luca is another character from New York City's criminal underworld who is unhappy about Fisk's recent decisions. He even orchestrated the bank robbery in episode 5 to get the $1.8 million Buck told he owed Victor as restitution for messing with his dealings. That is why, when the two started talking in episode 7, it seemed like Fisk's life would finally be in danger after he had mostly cruised through the show so far. Luca clearly wanted to kill Fisk, claiming things were better with Vanessa as the boss. The Kingpin's wife seemed tempted by the proposition. Later in the episode, Vanessa gives Luca the address he was looking for and tells him that Fisk is alone. Here's where things are unclear. Daredevil Born Again could have been presenting the story at face value, with Vanessa angry at her husband and sending Luca to kill him so she could get her old position back. Due to his criminal experience, it would make sense that Fisk just had Buck on standby to protect him. The other explanation is that Vanessa told Fisk about Luca's intentions, and they played him. With 2 episodes left, the confirmation should come soon. Muse and Heather Glenn's involvement. Daredevil Born Again Episode 7 finally confirmed that Wednesday's Hunter Doohan is playing Muse. The character had appeared unmasked earlier in the show, where Bastion Cooper went to Heather Glenn's book launch and managed to get her to take him in as a client. The MCU series now brought back that plot point, with Bastion attending what would be a very eventful session of therapy. Muse's fixation with Heather was because reading her thoughts opened up his creativity. Muse's blood paintings. Daredevil Born Again slowly revealed Bastion's dark backstory before he made it clear he was Muse. After that, all bets were off, as it seemed he would kill Heather at any turn. Given how she dies in the comics, albeit in a very different way, the show played a nice game of bait and switch. Not only did Heather survive her encounter with Muse, but she was the one to kill the villain, shooting him repeatedly after Daredevil burst into her office and fought Muse. Previously, Heather told Matt that her next book would be about masked vigilantes. With Muse's actions and her comment that anyone who needs a mask is a coward, her story becomes interesting. Fisk's anti-vigilante task force. While Daredevil was the one to save Heather and fight Muse, with Heather herself being the one to shoot and kill the villain, all the credit for Muse's death and the end of his reign of terror ends up going to Wilson Fisk's anti-vigilante task force. As Daredevil was investigating Muse's plans, Fisk was doing the same with his team. However, the Marvel hero acted faster. Thanks to how Daredevil left the scene and no one could confirm his involvement, Fisk managed to spin the narrative, given how the task force was already on site. With Fisk and the AVTF posing for photos and taking credit for Muse's defeat, the only way the truth about the matter could have come out was through the BB report. However, after having failed Fisk earlier by accidentally giving BB info on the mayor's secret plans, Michael Gandolfini's Daniel managed to turn things around. With Daniel threatening BB and forcing her to comply with their narrative, Fisk's task force can now fall into the good graces of NYC's citizens. With 2 episodes left before Daredevil Born Again Season 1 ends, the task force's role can continue to grow. Daredevil Born Again episodes stream on Disney Plus weekly every Tuesday.